everyone, this is Annette Ballou, and she has been my considerably new friend. She is new but deep friend, and like most of my other friends, has very impressive background, and currently she is a strategic advisor to President's Office for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at UMass in Boston. And she has been always interested in building innovation ecosystems. So if you are in innovation by any chance, by any way, you know how difficult and how important it is to build innovation ecosystems for innovation to survive and thrive. And at the same time, she's very interested in medical technologies that save lives or are in some or the other way are very useful to humanity. So I'm so thankful to have this wonderful, wonderful person to talk to. And thank you all for watching us. And today we are going to, one more time, we are going to visit the topic of something that we have one time discussed, which is the most important topic for women, which is speaking up. And another topic that we will discuss today, but I will post it in a separate video, which will be about being too much of anything, like being called too bossy. So, is there anything that you want to just get started with when it comes to speaking up?
Well, I think as we've talked before, I think for women, sometimes it's very difficult to speak up. Or sometimes you speak up, but then you're sort of shut down by other people in the room for whatever reason. And so I think it depends on how you were brought up and what your experiences have been throughout your life as to how much you really want to push that. And sometimes I think it's appropriate to stay quiet, but other times I think it's more appropriate to speak up. But I don't think that sometimes women feel that they're allowed to do that, or they don't feel comfortable or enabled.
And we all know that more often than not, for women speaking up in many cultures and in many situations, it's not encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
What's your experience? How were you brought up, and when was it in your life that you realized that speaking up was a problem or it was something different for others?
So, oh wow, so how I was brought up. So I was brought up in Texas, and I don't know if you know anything about Texas women, but generally they're pretty forward with the way they think. They're not afraid to say their opinions, and I grew up riding horses and milking cattle and doing all sorts of crazy things like that. So I was always told as a young girl, and I'll date myself a little bit here, in the 60s and the 70s, I was always told that I could be whoever I wanted to be and I could do whatever I wanted to do. And so that's the way I was brought up, which I don't think in that day and age, that's the way every woman was brought up. But that was my opinion, and that was the way that I was told to be, and so I was. I got into the work world and I realized that some of my opinions were not so appreciated.
It's like wake up time.
Yeah, right. It's like all those, what do they say? Those millennials that have been told that they were like perfect their entire life, and then they get out into the real world and they're told that they're not so perfect. Well, maybe that's sort of, I had a little bit of that as well. So there was some shocking things, that I realized, hey, I don't know it all, and I might want to sit back and listen a little bit. Which I did. And I learned that there are appropriate times to speak up and appropriate times not to speak up. However, I also learned that when people say, oh, you're bossy, or something sort of degrading like that, it's meant to shame you. And I think that you're sort of like wow, I never thought of myself as bossy. But I think like you talked earlier, you go home and you think about that. Like, wow, what was that all about? And why did that person say that? And I think in that case, that's a power play. So I think women do that to each other, and I think men do that to women, although men may have a little bit of a different tactic. But if you're in a situation where there is a power game being played, I've seen the tactic used where people have told other people um, that their thoughts aren't valid, and one of the ways they might do that is to focus on the way that they've delivered the speech.
I have found myself in this situation, not anymore, but in the beginning of my career, or at least a few years back, that even if I had something to say, I would sit there and doubt myself that is it the right thing to say? Should I say it now? Is it the right time to say? Or what is everyone else going to think about that? And then another person in the room would say something which is irrelevant or not at the right opportunity, and people would just take it. And yet I wouldn't get the hint that, just say it. People are usually nicer to listen to something that you have to say than not.
Organizations that foster inclusive conversation and safe conversation get a lot more out of the people in the room than organizations that don't allow that. And there are plenty of organizations these days that still, in this day and age, don't allow safe conversations. How many meetings have you been in when you walk in a room and you know the person leading this meeting has an agenda, they know what they want to get out of this agenda, and they know the answers they want. And so they don't want the alternative opinions, or they don't, that type of thing. But then also, what other kind of organizations have you been in where it's totally safe to express whatever it is you need to express, and in whatever tone of voice you need to express it? And that's, I think, where the real creativity and the real innovation comes from. When people are not afraid to say anything and everyone is empowered.
Yes, yeah, I really strive for that, and I think somehow all of us who have that awareness should work towards that. On that, thank you so much. I look forward to having you again.
Oh, well, thank you. This has been fun.